You know, there was a time, not that long ago actually, when I hit 63 and just felt stuck. Completely and utterly stuck. It wasn't a sudden thing, more like a slow fade. Energy levels plummeted. Getting out of bed felt like a monumental effort. My body ached in ways that seemed permanent. My mind felt foggy, like wading through treacle just to remember simple things. The joy seemed to have drained right out of life. Every day felt heavy, predictable, and frankly, a little bit pointless. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the tired, defeated person staring back. It felt like I was just existing, waiting for time to tick by, with no real hope of feeling vibrant or engaged again. I honestly thought this was it. This was just how it was going to be from now on. This is the price of getting older. I told myself, but deep down, something rebelled against that idea. There had to be more than this. Right. There had to be a way to feel alive again. And thankfully, there was. It wasn't one big, complicated secret. It was a collection of small, surprisingly simple things that, when I finally started putting them into practice, completely changed the trajectory I was on. In this video, I want to share with you exactly what this was. These aren't miracle cures or expensive treatments. They're practical habits, simple shifts you can make. That helped me reclaim my energy, improve my sleep, sharpen my mind, and just feel genuinely happy and hopeful again. If you've been feeling anything like I was, please, stick around, watch to the end, because what I'm about to share might just surprise you with how powerful simple changes can be. When I was at my lowest point, feeling utterly hopeless at 63, one of the biggest struggles was the crushing fatigue. It wasn't just feeling tired at the end of the day. It was a deep weariness that started the moment I woke up. Mornings were the worst. Dragging myself out of bed, feeling instantly drained, facing the day with a sigh before it had even begun. I tried drinking more coffee, hoping for a quick fix, but that just made me jittery and didn't touch the fundamental lack of energy. It felt like my internal battery was running on empty, all the time. I remember thinking, is this my new normal? The thought was incredibly depressing. Simple tasks felt overwhelming. Going for a walk felt like climbing a mountain. Even having a conversation felt like too much effort sometimes. It impacted everything: my mood, my willingness to see friends, my interest in hobbies I used to love. I was withdrawing into myself, feeling isolated and frankly, a bit miserable. The first real shift came from an unexpected place. Something so basic I almost dismissed it. It was about how I started my day. Specifically, hydration and a quiet moment. It sounds ridiculously simple, almost too simple to make a difference when you feel like your whole system is shutting down. But hear me out. My mornings used to involve waking up, feeling groggy, stumbling to the kitchen for that first desperate cup of coffee. I rarely drank any water before that. I read somewhere, almost by accident, about the importance of hydrating first thing in the morning. Our bodies lose water overnight, and waking up dehydrated can contribute significantly to that feeling of sluggishness and fatigue. I decided, with a healthy dose of skepticism, to give it a try. The suggestion was simple: before coffee, before anything else, drink a full glass of water. Sometimes I added a squeeze of lemon, sometimes not. But the key was the water itself. First thing, the first few days, I didn't notice much, but I stuck with it. After about a week or two, something subtle started to shift. That intense, heavy grogginess when I first opened my eyes began to lessen. It wasn't a jolt of energy, but more like the fog was lifting a little faster. I felt less dry inside. It seems so obvious now, but at the time, it felt like a small revelation. It wasn't just the physical act of drinking the water. It was the ritual. Taking that moment, before the demands of the day crashed in. to do something simple and nourishing for myself. I started sitting quietly for just 5 minutes while I drank the water. No phone, no news, just breathing and being present. This tiny ritual, combining hydration with a moment of calm, became a cornerstone of my morning. It didn't magically give me the energy of a 20-year-old, but it stopped the day from starting in a deficit. It felt like I was gently waking my body up instead of shocking it with caffeine. Along with the morning routine, I realized my sleep was a huge part of the problem. I was often restless, waking up multiple times, or lying awake for hours in the middle of the night. My mind racing with worries big and small. Then I'd finally drift off just before the alarm, only to wake up feeling utterly exhausted. This cycle perpetuated the fatigue. I knew I needed better sleep, but I thought it was out of my control. Just another symptom of getting older. I'd tried counting sheep, warm milk, even over-the-counter sleep aids sometimes, but nothing seemed to stick or make a real difference long-term. The racing mind was the biggest barrier. It felt impossible to quiet the endless loop of thoughts. I learned that preparing for sleep is just as important as the sleep itself. It's not just about going to bed when you're tired, it's about creating the right conditions for your body and mind to wind down. I started implementing a simple, consistent evening routine. About an hour before I wanted to go to sleep, I would start dimming the lights in the house. I stopped looking at screens, phone, tablet, TV. This was hard at first. It had become such a habit to scroll through news or watch a show right up until I closed my eyes. But the blue light from screens is incredibly disruptive to our body's natural sleep-wake cycle. Replacing screen time with something calming made a huge difference. I started reading a physical book, listening to quiet music, or doing some gentle stretching. Another simple change was making sure my bedroom was a true sanctuary for sleep. I made it as dark as possible, using blackout curtains. I paid attention to the temperature, keeping it cool, and I invested in comfortable bedding. These might sound like small things, but together, they created an environment that signaled to my body it was time to rest. I also started practicing a simple breathing exercise I learned. When I got into bed, instead of letting my thoughts spiral, I would focus on my breath. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Counting my breaths helped anchor my mind and keep it from wandering into worry. It took practice, and some nights were still better than others. But gradually, consistently, I started falling asleep faster and staying asleep longer. Waking up feeling even slightly more rested had a ripple effect on my energy levels throughout the day. It was like these two simple habits, hydrating first thing and creating an evening sleep ritual, were the foundational pieces that started to rebuild my energy from the ground up. They felt achievable even when I was feeling my worst. And that was key. Starting small, with things that felt manageable, gave me the momentum to consider what else might be possible. Now that I had started to lay a bit of a foundation with my morning hydration ritual and the improved sleep routine, I still felt a significant lack of physical energy and a stiffness in my body. Getting around felt cumbersome. My joints ached. My muscles felt weak. And the idea of any kind of exercise felt completely out of reach, even intimidating. I saw people my age out walking briskly or going to classes, and I felt a pang of envy mixed with resignation. That's not for me, I'd think. I'm too tired, too stiff, too out of shape. The narrative in my head was that movement was for people who already had energy, not for someone like me who felt depleted just thinking about it. I believed the myth that you needed high-intensity workouts to get any benefit, and that seemed impossible given how I felt. Then I heard someone talking about gentle movement and how just a little bit each day could make a surprising difference. Not about training for a marathon, but just about getting the body moving. I started incredibly small. I mean, really small. It began with just walking to the end of my driveway and back. Seriously. That was it for the first few days. It sounds pathetic now, but at the time, it felt like an accomplishment. The next week, I walked to the neighbor's house and back. then to the corner. Gradually, very gradually, I extended the distance. It wasn't about speed or breaking a sweat. It was just about putting one foot in front of the other consistently. I tried to make it a habit to walk for just 10 or 15 minutes most days, even if it was slow. Some days I felt tired doing it, but I noticed that, after the walk, I often felt a little bit better, less stiff, and surprisingly, sometimes even had a slight lift in my mood. Alongside the walking, I incorporated some simple stretching. I found some gentle stretching routines online designed for seniors and started doing just a few minutes each morning or evening. Nothing complicated, just basic stretches for the arms, legs, and back. It helped loosen up those stiff joints and tight muscles. It wasn't instant, but over time, that constant background ache started to lessen. I felt more limber, less like the Tin Man. This gentle movement, combined with better sleep and hydration, started to build a kind of baseline energy I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't boundless energy, but it was enough to make daily tasks feel less daunting and to actually want to do a little more. It shifted my perspective from I can't to maybe I can just a little. But physical health wasn't the only thing suffering. My mental state was struggling too. Feeling hopeless and withdrawn meant I wasn't engaging with the world or with people like I used to. I felt a growing sense of isolation. My interests had waned. Things I used to enjoy just didn't hold the same appeal. It felt like a part of me had gone dormant. I realized I needed something to look forward to, something that sparked a little joy or curiosity. It wasn't about filling every moment, but about having something that felt meaningful outside of the daily routine. I started thinking about things I used to enjoy or things I'd always wanted to try. I remembered how much I used to love gardening, but I hadn't touched my small patch in years. I started by just weeding a tiny section, then planting a few simple herbs. It was messy, and my back complained a bit. But feeling the soil, seeing something green start to grow, connected me back to something real and life-affirming. It gave me a small sense of purpose each day, checking on the plants, watering them. It was a quiet, personal joy, but it chipped away at that feeling of pointlessness. I also made a conscious effort to reconnect, not in a big social way initially, but just reaching out to one or two friends I hadn't spoken to in a while. A simple phone call, a short email. It felt awkward at first, admitting I hadn't been doing well, but the connection was incredibly healing. Just hearing another voice, sharing a laugh, reminded me that I wasn't alone and that relationships are vital. It wasn't about becoming a social butterfly overnight, but about opening the door just a crack to connection and engagement. This focus on gentle movement and finding simple ways to reconnect or engage my mind added another layer to rebuilding my well-being. It showed me that feeling better wasn't just about fixing physical problems. It was about nurturing my mind and spirit too. These steps felt like I was slowly climbing out of the rut I had fallen into. The changes were starting to build momentum, but there was still something missing. I was moving a bit more, sleeping a little better, and finding small pockets of joy. But I still felt a general lack of strength and vitality. I'd heard for years that diet is important, but it always felt overwhelming, so many conflicting rules and recommendations. I didn't want another complicated plan. I needed something simple, something I could actually stick to without feeling deprived or confused. I focused on just one thing, making sure I was getting enough protein spread throughout the day. It sounds almost too basic, doesn't it? But it made a noticeable difference. I realized I had often been skipping meals or having very small, carbohydrate-heavy meals that left me feeling hungry and weak shortly after. Protein is essential for building and maintaining muscle mass, which is something that naturally declines as we age. Losing muscle contributes to weakness, fatigue, and makes everything feel harder. I wasn't aiming to become a bodybuilder, but I wanted to feel stronger, more capable. I started making small adjustments to my meals to include a source of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This didn't mean drastic changes, It was things like adding a spoonful of Greek yogurt or a hard-boiled egg to my breakfast, including some leftover chicken or lentils in my soup or salad for lunch, and making sure my dinner plate included a portion of fish, beans, or lean meat. I also started having a small protein-rich snack if I felt hungry between meals, like a handful of nuts or a slice of cheese. The impact was surprising. First, I felt fuller and more satisfied after meals, which helped curb those energy crashes and sugar cravings I often had mid-afternoon. Second, and perhaps more importantly, I started feeling physically stronger. Combined with the gentle movement I had introduced, I noticed that things like carrying groceries or climbing stairs felt less taxing. My muscles felt less flimsy. It was a subtle change at first, but over several weeks, the cumulative effect was significant. I had more sustained energy throughout the day, not just in the mornings after hydrating or after a good night's sleep. It felt like I was fueling my body properly for the first time in a long time. This focus on protein wasn't about following a strict diet. It was just a simple principle: include a source of protein every time I eat. It was easy to remember and easy to implement with regular food. It felt like I was giving my body the building blocks it needed to function better. It wasn't just about feeling less tired. It was about feeling more robust, more capable. It was another piece of the puzzle falling into place. Adding this nutritional focus completed the initial set of simple changes that started to pull me out of that feeling of hopelessness. It wasn't any one thing, but the combination of hydrating my body, prioritizing sleep, adding gentle movement, nourishing my mind and connections, and supporting my physical structure with protein that started to bring back the light. Looking back at that time when I was 63 and felt utterly hopeless, it's hard to believe how much has changed. It wasn't a sudden transformation, a flick of a switch. It was a gradual process, built on small, consistent actions. I wasn't trying to reverse time or become someone I wasn't. I was just trying to find a way to feel better, to feel more present and capable in my own life. The beautiful thing about these changes is how simple they are, and how they build upon each other. Hydrating properly sets the stage for better energy from the moment you wake up. Getting better sleep allows your body and mind to repair and recharge. Gentle movement improves your physical capacity and boosts your mood. Engaging your mind and connecting with others nourishes your spirit and combats feelings of isolation. And fueling your body with simple, good nutrition, like focusing on protein, provides the strength and sustained energy you need to live fully. These weren't radical overhauls. They were tweaks, adjustments, conscious choices to nurture myself when I had previously been neglecting myself. It wasn't always easy. There were days when I didn't feel like drinking that water first thing, or when I wanted to scroll on my phone late at night, or when the idea of even a short walk felt too overwhelming. But I learned the power of just showing up. Doing it imperfectly was always better than not doing it at all. Some days the walk was shorter. The stretching was quicker. The protein was just a handful of nuts instead of a perfectly balanced meal. And that was okay. The key was the consistency, the commitment to myself, even in small ways. What surprised me the most was the ripple effect. When I started feeling physically a little better, my mood improved. When my mood improved, I was more likely to reach out to a friend or try a new activity. When I was more engaged, I felt more motivated to take care of my physical self. It created a positive cycle instead of the downward spiral I had been in. It wasn't about chasing some external standard of youth or vitality, but about finding my own level of well-being and capability at this stage of life. It was about reclaiming agency and realizing I wasn't just passively aging. I could actively participate in how I felt, physically and mentally. If you are feeling anything like I felt at 63, tired, stuck, lacking hope, feeling like this is just how it is now, please know that it doesn't have to be. These simple changes I've talked about, they aren't magic, but their cumulative effect can feel pretty close to it when you've been in a dark place. They gave me back my energy, my focus, my sense of purpose, and most importantly, my hope. Remember, small changes can make a big difference to your health and happiness. Start small, be patient with yourself, and celebrate every little step forward. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you tried any simple habits that made a big difference in your life after 60? What are your biggest challenges right now? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to feel less alone and more inspired. And if you found my story helpful or encouraging, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps others find it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more ideas and conversations about living your best life at every age. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. You are not hopeless. There are always things you can try. Live your best life, starting today.